You know that feeling? You get home after a super long day, you pull into the driveway, turn off the engine, and you just sit there in total, complete silence. Well, you are definitely not alone. Society has all these labels for people who love the quiet, right? Shy, sad, maybe even antisocial. But it turns out psychology tells a completely different story. So let's decode the 6 signs that prove your need for silence isn't some kind of flaw, it's actually the mark of a high-definition mind. Okay, here's the game plan. First, we're going to bust that whole antisocial myth right out of the gate. Then, we'll walk through the 6 key signs, kind of like we're reviewing for a quiz. We'll cover everything from how your brain is wired for low stimulation, all the way to your incredibly rich inner world. And we'll wrap up by looking at why this trait isn't just okay, it's a genuine superpower. All right, section 1. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding of them all. This idea that craving quiet means you're antisocial, or that wanting to be alone means you don't like people. As you're about to see, it's very, very often the exact opposite. Yeah, let's go back to that moment in the car. It's the perfect place to start. See, a lot of people need constant noise, TV, music, podcasts, kind of to escape their own thoughts. But if you're someone who actually seeks out the quiet, it's not about escaping anything. It's a fundamental need for your brain to just catch up and process the mountain of information it took in all day. This slide right here really gets to the core of it all. Over on the left, you see all the usual labels we get slapped with: shy, weird, antisocial. But on the right, that's what's actually going on. You're not strange, you're what's called a deep processor. Your mind just operates at a higher resolution. It's like you're seeing the world in 4K while everyone else is watching on an old standard def TV. Okay, let's dive into our first official sign. And this one's all about biology. It has nothing to do with being tired or not having enough energy. Nope. This is about how your nervous system is literally, physically wired to handle the world around you. Just think about it. You're at a loud party, a crowded concert, or a chaotic shopping mall. Do you start to feel physically drained? Like your battery is just getting sucked dry even if you're not doing much? That's not just an emotional thing, it's physiological. Your brain isn't trying to hide, it's just trying to protect itself from a total sensory overload. And this brings us to a key psychological term: low arousal preference. Now, it sounds complicated, but it just means your nervous system is more sensitive than average. While some people seem to thrive in total chaos, your brain and your body perform at their absolute peak in calm, low-key environments. You're simply built to observe the world deeply, not just get blasted by its noise. Now let's get into our next 2 signs, which are totally interconnected. These are all about how your mind doesn't just see one thing at a time. Oh no, it sees the entire network, the whole forest, and even the root system running underneath. So we're looking at 2 really powerful traits here. First, there's hyperconnectivity, which is how your brain connects all your ideas. And second, there's active observation, which is how you connect with other people. So what even is hyperconnectivity? Well, for a deep processor, a single thought isn't just one step in a straight line. It's more like a firework, instantly exploding into a huge web of a dozen other related ideas. Your brain is doing this all the time, this massive amount of work in the background, and you need silence just to give it a chance to sort through it all. And this quote just captures that experience perfectly. When you're in a conversation, you're not just hearing the words, you're analyzing the tone, the body language, the motivation behind it all. You're getting the whole picture. You can't help but seek out depth because, well, that's just how your brain is built. This flows right into our 3rd sign. When you're the quiet one in a group, you're not being shy or standoffish. You're actually engaging in something called active observation. While everybody else is busy talking over each other, you're busy processing what's not being said. You're picking up on the emotional currents and the little details that everyone else misses. You see the full story. And this is exactly why things like mandatory office parties or mind-numbing small talk feel so incredibly draining. Your brain is hardwired to look for deep, authentic connections. It literally rejects superficial stuff because it offers no real data, nothing meaningful to process. It's a clear sign of emotional depth, not poor social skills. All right, moving on. Let's look at how all these traits start to build on each other. Signs 4 and 5 are all about the complex way you think. And they explain why, for you, solitude isn't just something you enjoy, it's a biological necessity. You have to recharge. So, first, we'll talk about something called complex cognitive processing, which is just a fancy way of saying you think in layers, not straight lines. Then we'll get into the incubation effect, which is the actual science behind why you get your best ideas when you're alone. This takes us to sign number 4. While a lot of people might see the world in simple black and white, your mind is seeing the entire, full-color, widescreen landscape. You just can't help but notice the patterns, the hidden contradictions, and the surprising connections that fly right over most people's heads.
And this is such a critical point. People probably accuse you of overthinking all the time, right? But it's not coming from a place of anxiety. It's coming from a place of pure logic. Your brain is just naturally programmed to look at every single angle of a problem, processing all the details and possibilities.
So how do you manage all that complex thinking? Well, that's where sign number 5 and the incubation effect come in. It's actually a pretty simple process. Step 1, you have to disconnect from all the noise. Step 2, that triggers incubation, where your subconscious mind just gets to work connecting all the dots. And finally, step 3, when you're in that quiet space, your absolute best, most creative ideas bubble up to the surface. See, you're not avoiding people, you're creating space for brilliance. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important sign of all. This is the one that explains why getting some external silence is totally non-negotiable for you. It's all about the never-ending conversation that's already happening inside your head.
You know what I'm talking about? Even when you're trying to chill out, your mind is just a beehive of activity. It's analyzing, questioning, reflecting. This constant inner monologue is a defining trait of a deep processor. Your internal world is already a very loud, very busy, and very vivid place. And let's be real, this is a total double-edged sword. On the one hand, this deep self-awareness is what makes you so incredibly wise and insightful. But man, on the other hand, it can be absolutely exhausting. You crave external silence because you need it to balance out the sheer volume of your own inner world. So let's bring this all home. If you've been nodding along, recognizing yourself in these signs, then it is time to stop thinking of your need for quiet as some kind of weakness. It's time to start seeing it for what it really is, a superpower. You're not broken, you're not weird, you just have a mind that is built differently. It thinks deeper, it connects ideas faster, and it experiences the world in a kind of high definition that is both incredibly rare and incredibly valuable. Your need for silence, that's just the essential maintenance your high-performance brain requires to run smoothly. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know your mind is built to see the world in high definition, the only question left is, how are you going to protect that peace? Because that quiet space isn't empty. It's where your greatest strength lives.